Buongiorno e benvenuti. Welcome to Art Yoga Pills with me, your host, Binny. In this space, we will connect and share together about creativity, inner child, and self-awareness. Siete pronti? Enjoy! Ciao a tutti, kia ora, and welcome to a new episode of Art Yoga Pills. Today I'm not alone. I have a very special guest with me. Welcome to Elizabeth Lehmann. How are you, Elizabeth?
Hello, Dini. I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation to your podcast. I'm very honored.
And thank you so much for accepting my invitation. For you, I'm aware that the way that we got to know each other initially was in a space of silence. So it would be interesting to see how now we can develop the knowledge of each other through words. And I'm really curious to begin this sharing.
Yes, we met in that 10-day Vipassana retreat, and we just looked at each other and tried not to keep the eye contact for very long because we were not allowed to communicate in any way or form, which was very challenging. And we were so happy at the end of the noble silence, and finally I got to know you because we keep seeing each other coming in and out of the buildings, and yes, it was all this curiosity like, who is this lady and who is that lady? And yes, it was
Yeah.
a very interesting experience.
Absolutely. And I'm really curious to arrive to that point in our conversation where possibly we could share about that too and see also how we can inspire others by sharing our own experience of Vipassana. But I guess that to begin with our conversation, I would like to start with you and ask
Mhm.
you our first question that is for people to know you, but also as a way for yourself to trying to understand how you could describe yourself with the question, who is Elizabeth? And you're more than welcome to go either personally, professionally, or combine the two together.
Yes, well, we need both because we're a whole person. So personally, I'm originally from Mexico City. And I came to New Zealand as an exchange many years ago. I have a big family, and I am a Spanish interpreter. So I work for different government agencies in New Zealand, and also I do some private um, interpreting. I don't do much translation because I'm not what they call a mouse library. I like working with people, and so yeah, I like interpreting better than translating. But I like reading a lot, and I recently got my certification as a mindfulness meditation facilitator. So we call ourselves facilitators, no teachers, but I mean we teach how to meditate. But yeah, we're going to talk about what is mindfulness, because although I said mindfulness meditation, mindfulness is not meditation. Mindfulness is to be aware, and we can be aware anytime. We can be aware with our eyes open. We can be aware, we can be mindful when we're eating, when we're walking, when we are showering ourselves, when we are working, when we are speaking to others, when we are listening. So we can be aware, we can be mindful any time of the day. So there are two different types of mindfulness. The formal mindfulness is the meditation when you sit down and you sit down with an intention and putting your attention. So the Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who is the one who makes mindfulness more well known, he describes mindfulness as the awareness is a paying attention purposely in the present moment without judgment. So when you sit down with the intention of focusing your mind in one object, it could be your breathing, it could be the sounds, it could be the sensations in your body, you are becoming aware of something. You're focusing your mind into one specific object. And then you start noticing things. So that's the formal kind of meditation, mindfulness meditation, the formal one. And the informal one is the one that we should do all the time when we are eating, when we are listening to others, when we're speaking, putting attention to the sensations in our body and the emotions, and to what we say and how we say it and why we say it. So, but to get to that point, we need to do the formal meditation first, because our minds are busy all the time. And most of the time, we're not aware of we're not in touch with ourselves. We're not aware of what we're saying or how we're reacting to a situation and where we are reacting that way. And I mean, this idea of being multitasking is good, it's not. Multitasking is actually, some studies that have proven that trying to do too many things at the same time, people make more mistakes because you're not focusing your mind on one thing at a time. And it's also very, very stressful. So it's very important to be aware at the present moment of what we're doing, putting attention to what we're doing, and throw out the window the idea of multitasking, because that's not good for anyone. It's not good for our performance, and it's not good for our health, for mental health. So I got into mindfulness because I'm, as an interpreter, it's a lot of mental work activity, translating in your mind. First of all, we need to listen actively to what one person is saying, and then understand that message well, because the sounds are words, but those words is we're not translating word by word, we're translating the whole idea. So you listen to the words and you make sense out of it, and then translate that message and transmit that message to the other listener. And going back, doing in both directions, like you're translating a conversation between the doctor and the patient. It's a lot of mental gymnastics, and it can be very, very tiring. It's very tiring, especially we do like simultaneous interpreting. You go to a conference and you're listening to the speaker, and you can only focus your mind, keep up your accuracy and that work in your mind for 25 minutes. More than that, you're starting your accuracy decreases, and your ability to translate. So that's why we always have two interpreters in a booth to translate for a conference. But apart from that, I having a big family. I have 6 children, and sometimes it was very stressful. I started having panic attacks, and the third visit I did to the emergency room at the hospital, the doctor said to me, "Lady, there's nothing wrong with you. You're only having a panic attack." And they sent me to the breathing clinic. And in there, they explained to me what is a panic attack. So I was hyperventilating. I was breathing with the upper part of my body, my lungs, and my body was having more carbon dioxide and oxygen, and that caused my blood to become acid because it's a chemical reaction in the body. So you start feeling this tingly in the tip of your fingers and your lips. You feel dizzy and disorientated, and it's just this chemical reaction going in your body. But when you have a full-blown panic attack, you start feeling that, and then you think that you are going to have you're having a heart attack, or you're having a stroke, or you're going to die, something terrible. And it didn't happen to me, but for some people can get to a saturation point where the body cannot take it anymore and you faint. And that's like switching, this is the switch to turn the whole process off, and then you start breathing normally and you come back to normal state. But I mean, it gets to a point that you go back into normal, you go back into, okay, the panic attack passed, and you level of your blood becomes normal again. And learning about panic attacks, and then they taught me how to breathe. I got more into meditation. I started meditating more regularly, and that helped me a lot with my mental health and my family. The first time I meditated was about 40 years ago. My brother passed away, and we were going through really difficult time grieving. And a friend of my mother's recommended us to go and do some meditation in a center called the Self-Realization Center. And it's in Los Angeles, from Paramahansa Yogananda. He's a meditation guru as well. So that was my first experience with meditation. So you go into a room and they're all sitting down with their eyes shut, and they didn't explain anything to us, but I read the book of the autobiography of a yogi. And so that was my first experience with meditation. Then about 10 years ago, I became more of a regular meditator. And in the last 2 years, I did a couple of diplomas to become a mindfulness facilitator. So that's my journey to mindfulness meditation.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for your sharing. There were so many interesting aspects that I wish to dive deeper with you if you are happy with it. And one of the first one is related with the duality of being a translator, so constantly being present for others, and then mindfulness, that is actually a way of becoming present of yourself. And I'm wondering if also the ability for both of us, because I'm also not a native English speaker, as you can tell from my accent, if the ability of discovering our capacity to speak another language, it could be also defined as a way of being mindful, as we are constantly being present of every single word that we are using, translating them into our mind from our native language to then let it out in the world. And I'm curious to check with you, what is your thought about it? Is something that it just came to me while you were explaining, even the ability for us to be present, or in your case to be present for others, to have that accuracy that you were sharing earlier, and how that span of accuracy, it decrease after a certain amount of time. And I'm wondering if that could be considered also a way for us to becoming a little bit more mindful in the way that we are bringing ourselves out into the world through our own words, possibly translated from a language to another.
Well, actually, I have never thought about it that way. I think that learning another language is not only the words, and it's not only the grammar. It's another way of thinking, because it's I don't know. I mean, I'm not a scientist of languages and stuff like that, but when you think in a language, I kind of think differently. I don't know if it has to do with the syntax, that to start, as you have to think differently to express the words, to make a sentence, to put together the words in the right order to make a phrase. For instance, you have to start thinking in a different way. But then it's also a way of thinking, like people express things and ideas differently in one language than in the other, and it all comes from the culture as well. So why do people say one thing in one language? I don't know, like bury the hatchet example. Where does it come from, and why do people come up with the expression? So what people used to do, or what was the lifestyle? And then also in Spanish, you could come up with somebody who has mal de ojo. So it's like, you know, it's like a baby can have a mal de ojo, and it's like somebody who becomes jealous of the baby. It's like a witchcraft kind of thing. And yeah, so where did that expression come from? That evil eye. So why would someone think that you can do the evil eye to a baby or something like that? It all comes from the culture. So it's learning a whole new way of thinking, and why do people think that way? But you can, for example, when you are meditating, you can be meditating, but you cannot be mindful, because maybe you are sitting there meditating, but your mind is wandering. You are not actually in the here and now, because it's very difficult to teach the mind to be focused, to stay focused in the here and the now, because the mind always wants to be solving problems, or it's always thinking about something that happened in the past. We're either hating or desiring something from the past, or we're worrying about something that's going to happen in the future, or we're wanting something to happen in the future, or even something that's happening right now. We could be doing self-criticism. We could be, I don't know, talking about, for example, the obstacles. There are some obstacles in meditation. Like you could become bored, like, oh, this is boring, or when is this going to end? Or you could get tired, or you could wonder, what is this for? Does it work? Is it good for me? I mean, you could be thinking all sorts of things. So you are not being mindful. So being mindful is to be fully present in the present moment. So you are either going to be fully present with your thoughts or your emotions, or the sounds, or your breathing. And when I am doing my interpreting, for example, I could interpret something, I could hear something, I could hear someone saying something. It could trigger a thought, or it could trigger a memory in me. So I have to put that to the side and keep focusing on my job, which is listening, active listening, and understanding the message, to be able to translate the message and pass the message to the other speaker, and keep doing that. So I need to be very mindful of myself, of if I catch myself, if I'm going to interpret for something that could be something that goes against my own beliefs, or as I said to you, if it's a word or an idea that triggers a certain aversion in myself, or even curiosity, and I have to keep putting that to the side, because I have to keep focusing my interpreting. So yeah, maybe that's also something that has influenced my curiosity in the mindfulness, and getting more into learning more about mindfulness and mindfulness meditation, because yeah, meditating has helped me a lot into focusing my mind into my work and in my own life. Because when I was having panic attacks, I had to, oh, this is happening now, so I have to stop it, and I had to be aware of my sensation in my body, and why was it happening. And and stop it. So I knew what was a full-blown panic attack, and I started to become aware of what was the first thought that I had when before the panic attack started. So I could calm myself down and say, okay, so you have to ground yourself. But to do that, you first need to become aware of it. And that's an exercise. It's our own personal work, our own personal inner work that we have to do before we get to that stage of being aware, because most of the time we are not aware of our own thoughts and our own emotions.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for for this additional explanation. And based on that, I would like to do a mix in between your previous sharing and this sharing when you were talking about the importance of realizing that the level of stress that might impact our life might be also due to the multitasking world that we're living in, and the importance of redefining possibly the way that are that we are present with each task that we have to perform on each day, but also our ability to rebalance that level of stress that sometimes due to our busy schedule it's hard to keep up with. And the same way that we are committing to those tasks every day, um, I find quite interesting that there is never time for mindfulness, there is never time for meditation. It seems like that many people are so busy in their days that there is never time to commit with something like that that can actually be very precious and can also avoid possibly to reach a state of ourself being so overwhelmed to possibly experience panic attack as you did. So I wonder if there is any suggestion for those who never have practiced neither mindfulness or meditation, in which way would you suggest them to bring that awareness that you were just talking about into themselves when we don't recognize certain things of ourselves, such as hyperventilating, not breathing in a way that is sufficient for our lungs to get oxygen into our full body? What would be one way or several way that you will share with us as a way of becoming aware? And how do we recognize that we are aware if someone never ever practiced nothing as mindfulness or meditation before?
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't need to sit down for an hour to observe your breathing. You can start just only with a minute. Or there's an exercise that I recommend is stop. So S is for stop, and then the T is for take a minute. The O is for observe, and the P is for proceed. So if you are in a situation where you are becoming overwhelmed by an emotion or something happened and you are going to about to explode, so just take 1 minute, just stop, take a breath. Just takes one breath to a deep breath in, and then slowly breathe out and observe. Don't do anything, don't say anything, just observe yourself and observe your surroundings, what's going on. And then that will give you the clarity of mind to then proceed. Because sometimes we react to a situation, and if we just step back for 1 minute, for one breath, and observe, it will give us enough time to think twice about what we're going to say, because sometimes we say something, we react, and then we regret having said something that probably was not the best thing to say, or do something that probably was not the best thing to do. And so you can just stop by that, just one deep breath in and one slow breath out. And you could start by then observing your breathing for 1 minute, and just increase it to 3 minutes and 5 minutes. For it to become a habit, you could start doing it at the same time of the day. Like, the best time is to do early in the morning, and before we leave the house, just I'm one of those that sometimes leave the house and I forget my keys or forget something. So just before you leave, just take 1 minute, just take a few deep breaths, and then tell me if you got everything, if you're ready before you leave. Just take some time to be with yourself. It could be just 1 minute, and then progressively increase it up to 20 minutes. You could end up meditating for 45 minutes or an hour. Another one that is very good, very useful is body scanning. So you could do a body scanning sitting down or lying down if you are not going to fall asleep. And just do the body scanning. So you start from your feet, from your toes, and just gradually move up to every part of your body, and bringing your breathing to every part of your body. And that's a very good way of becoming aware of our sensations in our body and how our body reacts to our thoughts. Because most of the time we are not aware of how our body is reacting to our thoughts, how the brain and the body have this very close relationship, and they react to each other's. So if we start getting a pain, like we're sitting down and we start getting pain in our knees, sitting down meditating, then the mind starts getting that message and say, okay, well, this is not good for you. You're going to end up with a clot, or you're not going to be able to get up, and how embarrassing. And then one thought leads to another. Next thing, you are not aware. But just focus in the sensation of the knees, for example, when you're sitting down, or gradually that will help you to become aware of your thoughts and your emotions. So it's good to start little and gradually build up, depending on our ability and our commitment.
To me, it's very precious, that sort of commitment that we are giving to ourselves on a daily basis, and knowing, especially for those who might not have enough time in their days or their evenings or their night, to know that they can start very little is something that can be so precious. And especially the thought of us as human being finding ourselves, even like, for example, while driving, we notice that suddenly we arrive to a place where we need to arrive, but we don't know what happened in between, probably because we were caught up in our mind, or as well as eating our meal, and then suddenly the plate is empty and we don't even remember what we were doing while we were eating, that suddenly the meal disappeared from our plate. So yeah, I guess it's like the small, precious moment that we can take even when we are doing something else in our day, that just doing it with that type of full awareness of the activities that we are taking on board for ourselves. It doesn't necessarily has to do with us, as we might all think of combining the two things, as you were sharing earlier, the difference between meditation and mindfulness. So not necessarily by doing it by sitting down still and quiet, but also doing it on a daily basis while we are performing everything that we are normally performing in our days. So noticing
Yes,
ourselves in those moments.
we um, daydreaming. We're not aware of our thoughts. So is the mind is everywhere and anywhere, but not in the here and the now. And the here and the now is the only moment that we have, and it's the most important one. So yeah, the mindfulness is the result of putting attention. So becoming mindful is just a result of. So I take mindfulness as a form of art. So when we sit down to observe our breathing, or the sounds around us, or the sensations in our body, the mind calms down. And then we become more aware of things that we took for granted, we were not aware of. And that's the idea of it. So sitting down to observe the present moment. And it's the idea that some people think that is relaxing is not always relaxing, because we could find something, a repetitive thought that could make us feel uncomfortable, like could be self-criticism, and just without judging. So mindfulness has 7 pillars. So we have the 7 pillars of mindfulness, and it's without judging. And that's the very first thing that we have to stop, because we are judging all the time. We're either judging others or the situation, or we are judging ourselves. And we are very kind to ourselves. So it's with patience, become very kind to ourselves by every time we find our mind wandering away, bring it back into the here and the now, very kindly, without criticizing, with patience, with acceptance, accepting whatever it is that comes, and observing it. So we accept perhaps a sad memory, and not try to get rid of it. Just with curiosity, observe that memory. So we have curiosity, we have acceptance, we have patience, we have without judging, and curiosity. Curiosity is very important. It's like, what's this sadness? What does the sadness feel like? Where do I feel the sadness in my body? And does it spread to any part of the body? And that gradually help us to become aware of those sensations. Mindfulness is not a therapy, it's therapeutic. So that can help us to realize something that we were not fully aware of, and could help us to look for assistance, like with professional assistance. So that's the first step, to actually recognize that we might have some aversion to something, or that we are not able to deal with a situation, and then look for some professional help. The result of mindfulness meditation is relaxing, because you are not going against what it is. When we accept what it is, and it's a very relieving sensation to say, okay, I'm going, this is what it is, and that's how it feels. What can I do about it? If I can do something about it, what can I do about it? And if I can't, so how can I live with a situation like that? Not identify ourselves with our pain or with the situation, because that's not us. Our thoughts is not us. We are not our thoughts. So that's, I think, the first step into becoming happier with ourselves, accepting things as they are, not wanting to change them. Because when we try to, or we want to change a situation, we become very unhappy.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for your words. And this brings me back to our experience of Vipassana, where there was highlighted the concept of impermanence, and that is also something that has to do with our thoughts and the way that we could become aware, possibly, of knowing that certain labels that we are putting towards ourselves, they are impermanent. We can decide if to keep on take them on board or release them in a way that can be beneficial for us and our healthy mind to be more anchored in the present moment instead of being possibly attached to the past and a past that no longer exists or a future that yet has to come, our present. So it's quite interesting how everything works in a way that we are not yet as human being um, aware of, like the beauty of the present moment and what this can give us, what opportunities this present moment can give us, even in dropping those heavy weights that we are putting on ourselves, including like ideas that we might have towards who we are and how do we support ourselves to recognize certain things, certain support that we might seek also from the outside world. So as you mentioned, also like professional help, professional support, but becoming aware of ourselves and those pattern of thoughts and behavior can definitely support us in redefining a new possible way of how do we want to be for
Yes,
ourselves and our life.
because when we become aware, when we pay attention to the present moment, then we can choose. We can choose to be mindful. We can choose with our awareness what to do while we're doing it. And it's not like, some people say, well, that's how I am. That's how I do things. But it's not necessarily. We can choose to be a certain way. We can choose to think in a certain way. It's very liberating to have that choice by becoming aware of what we are doing it and how what we do can have an impact in others, and also help us to observe others and be kind to others. Because when we start to observe ourselves and how we react and why do we react the way we do, then that's going to help us to be kind to others. And by being kind to ourselves, we start being kind to ourselves, then we can start becoming kind to others. Have the compassion. So becoming compassionate to others. And we are not going, as I said, we're not going against the flow, we're not resisting, because when we resist a situation, it becomes painful. And then that's the origin of suffering. So that's why in Buddhism, they say that the origin of suffering is not accepting the things as they are by wanting to change them. So we are always hating a situation or wanting something. So if you don't want a situation, you become sad or angry, or you have these emotions and you suffer. And when in a way you either want it or you don't want it, but it's not here and you're not happy with what you have, or you have something you don't want it, that's the origin of suffering. But when we accept things as they are, but accepting something as it is, it doesn't mean not doing anything about it. It's simply accepting the situation as it is. And then with that awareness, then we can react. It's like, for example, if you have an appointment and you are going in the car and you're in a hurry because you have to be there on time. And then you have a puncture in the tire. And you start throwing your arms up in the air and, oh my God, I'm going to be late. I am going to get in trouble. I'm an idiot. What does it always happens to me? Blah, blah, blah. So the mind starts talking and you're not being aware that the mind is taking over with all the thoughts. But if you stop for a minute and say, okay, this is the situation. I have a puncture in my tire. I cannot be there in time. Take a moment to breathe and do the stop. Take a deep breath, observe the situation, and then you proceed. You have to call the people that you're going to have the appointment to let them know that you're not going to be there in time, and then you proceed to change the tire or fix the problem, and then you can go. There's nothing we can do to change the plan. Okay, we're going to be late. We let them know that we're going to be late. We fix the tire, and then we proceed. So accepting is not doing anything, like, okay, well, I'm not going to do anything about it. So it just gives us the clarity of the mind to do what we have to do with the clarity of mind, instead of self-criticism or hating the situation, sweating because you are having this stressful moment of not being on time and having this situation. So that's just like an example of how we could become aware of the present moment, accepting it with patience, with that awareness of how to react in a mindful way.
And thank you, Elizabeth, for giving a practical example of how life can can know exactly sometime going according to plan, because that's what can often happen. Life is quite unpredictable, and learning how to be responsible for our own feelings and knowing that we have a choice of the way that we wish to channel our energy when those challenging situations present themselves. It's very important to know that is still part of the way that we are taking care of ourselves. The way that we decide to act or react in certain situation can definitely make a difference in the way that even you were explained earlier of the explanation of the panic attack, that what is happening to my body when I find myself in a challenging situation that I cannot change. What are the things that I can do to avoid myself to be increasingly stressed for something that um, has possibly not a straight line to how to solve the issue, but still is a possibility for me to become aware of other possibilities that I can um, entangle myself from those issues that could be part of our daily life experience, and how I also benefit myself by taking care of myself in that present moment where there is something that I'm not I'm not responsible for, but yet there is some responsibility that I can take on board and do something about it, that it can be useful for my well-being as well. Even such with your example, it's a interesting way that we can examine ourselves in a situation that definitely is a little bit out of plan.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, to be self-compassionate, and that will also help us to be compassionate with others. Like if someone is angry with you and they start shouting and yelling, just don't react. You give yourself time to think, and maybe give the other person time to calm down, because nothing lasts forever. Every moment that goes past, it will be, the next minute it'll be something else. Nothing lasts forever. And just that awareness helps us with our relationships and with our own relationship, which is the most important relationship that we have, because we can move places, we can change the people that we relate to, but we cannot change our, we always take ourselves everywhere we go. So the most important person is, the most important relationship we have is with ourselves. And there are many benefits of becoming aware. So it helps us to, it's like when you have, you have a glass full of water, and then you put those sparkles inside the glass, and you shake it. So these sparkles will be floating in that jar with water. So that's what our thoughts are like when they're everywhere, all over the place, and one thought leads to another thing. But if we give it time, if we don't keep shaking it, if we don't keep shaking that jar with the water and the sparkles, they will go down to the bottom, they will settle down, because we're not moving them anymore. And that's what happens gradually with giving us a time to become mindful. That's what happens in mindfulness meditation. It's very hard when you first sit down to observe your breathing, because the moment that you sit down, your body is not moving. You can only take your body to one place at a time, but the mind can be anywhere, anytime, can be in the past, in the present, the future, in the why this, and loving or hating a situation. The mind is everywhere. And the mind doesn't like to be in the here and the now. The mind is always somewhere. And it's very useful to have a mind that is capable of thinking of several things at the same time, because it helps us to solve equations and solve situations, think fast. But when we want to meditate, when we want to sit down to just observe our breathing, the mind doesn't want to do that. And we have to train the mind to do that, to stay put in one place. And it's very interesting how the thoughts there are in our subconscious, so we are not aware of, and we start listening to those thoughts or observing those thoughts, and it's interesting. The important thing is not to get hooked with those thoughts. You don't jump on the wagon and go with the thought 20 minutes later, and what was I supposed to be doing? I was supposed to be observing my breathing. So you don't do that. You observe them and let them go. And gradually you get less and less thoughts, less and less mental activity when you sit down to meditate, because you train your mind to do that when it's time. Okay, this is time just to observe the breathing, or just observe the sounds without judging, with patience, with compassion, with acceptance, with curiosity. So gradually we are becoming mindful at any moment that we want to, and at any time of the day when we're walking, instead of I'm going for my walk and thinking about all the things that happen in the office. So what we had to do tomorrow, just be aware of your surroundings and observe. Maybe you've gone past the same place 100 times that you have never observed the color of the wall, or the flower growing on the footpath, or by the footpath, or, little details like that, and just become aware of everything. And enjoy life.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Is to me also like a little bit of a flashback of our experience of Vipassana, of the time where we had to train our mind to be in the present moment, and with the benefit at that time of the noble silence was definitely an additional component to start a little bit, at least in my experience, to slowly detach from that mechanical way that we are processing thought, and we are constantly everywhere but where our body actually sits in. So thank you for this special reminder that is still present within me after all these months, and I'm hoping to keep it to keep it up, that same commitment with myself, to keep on being aware, keep on respecting myself, honoring the way that my body and mind function, and trying to combine them as much as possible together so that I can increase my chances to be more in the present moment, without flicking between the past and the future, and just be right here, right now, and increasing my
Yes,
love for myself too.
yeah. So we just need to be more connected with ourselves, because I think that we are not connected with ourselves most of the time. The mind is busy, and we let the mind do whatever he wants, and that can be really bad for our health and for our relationships, and as I say, with ourselves, the most important relationship with ourselves. If more people became aware of that, it would reduce a lot of high blood pressure problems, for example. Because imagine if you are like I was, having those panic attacks, and then keep up that level of stress, that has an impact on the physical health, and that's just one of the many things that could happen by simply not being aware. Um, when you're with your family, become aware of the present moment. Enjoy your family. Enjoy every moment that we have in our lives, just by simply paying attention.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And arriving at this point of our conversation, I'm wondering if there is anything else that you wish to add, something that you consider important that we haven't touched yet, and be willing possibly to share it, as we are approaching possibly the end of our conversation. I'm aware that there is so much that we can talk to, but yet there is something extra that we can add, that we
Yeah,
might not
well,
have considered before.
there is been like a boom in this mindfulness and mindfulness meditation. So people can find um, meditation recordings, and you can go to YouTube and find meditation. You could just Google it, mindfulness meditation. You can find out all sorts of information. You could find, recordings of meditations anywhere. But it's good to belong to a group, or to have a teacher, or to have someone to meditate with, someone who you could exchange your ideas, and yes, have someone to guide you, and someone to help you along the way. Because I can just do meditation here on my own by myself, but it's good to have a teacher, to have a group, to have someone to share your experiences with, and someone to ask questions. And yeah, so I think that it's important to have a teacher, or to have as I said, a facilitator of mindfulness. And you could also look for any teacher if you want, but um, um, here, if anyone is interested, I give meditation classes mainly to women, but I mean, I know that we are all in need of meditating, and having someone to help us along the way in our mindfulness meditation journey.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And also, a way that people might reach out directly to you if they wish will be by simply checking the description of this episode so that they can refer to your Instagram page if they want to get more information about where you might be teaching around Auckland in the near future, as well as possibly creating a deeper connection if they want to know more about this practice, about this way of being alive and contributing to others people our own life, but also other people's life, as well as another thing that I wish to add in the description of this episode is your recent contribution to Deconnect, I hope to pronounce it
Yes,
well, where you release an article about introduction to mindfulness. So if anyone
yes,
also wish to have more information about what we just shared, but having them available in a reading form, that could also be really useful. I'm reading it all, and I still have it in my star, the preferred page, so that I can always go back to it every
find
time
it.
that I want to, yeah, I want to connect with that again.
Great, thank you.
And yeah, just to conclude our conversation, I would like to share with you my final question, which I always keep it as a secret for our guests. But if you might
Okay.
happen to listen other episode, at least for our listener, they know what is coming, and then to me, it's like the juicy part of our conversation. And my final request for you is coming as an opportunity, if you like, to share three empowering messages that you wish to share with us today, no matter how small or big they are, as a way also to send a reminder to yourself and perhaps to me and everybody else who is listening in this moment. So if you wish to share, yeah, three empowering messages with us today.
Be true to yourself. Um, don't try to please everyone because you are never going to um, please all the people. So if you are um, genuine to yourself, if you honor your own wishes and desires, and don't try to please everyone, you are going to be happy and whole. You are going to feel complete. And when you are happy and complete, you are a much better friend, a better mother, partner, worker. You bring the best of yourself to any situation. And if you are being true to yourself, you are going to be honest and um, to people. And honesty, to be honest to yourself, and the honesty to others is probably the best contribution that we can do to the world, because not being yourself is going to make you very unhappy. And if you are not being true to yourself, you're not happy, then you are not going to be of any use to others. So if we are happy and what we are doing is for a greater good, provided that what we are doing is not going to harm anyone and is for a greater good, then we cannot go wrong. Because I think that we all come from the same source, and we are all a reflection of each other. We're all one, and we're part of one big system. And if we are vibrating in accordance to in harmony within ourselves, then we are contributing to that whole harmony around us, in our families, in our environment, in our community. So that's what I think is the most empowering thing, is to be the best version of yourself every day, and always show up with a smile.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I really enjoyed this part of the connection. Is my favorite one, where I also embrace in the first as a those messages as they come to me. So I'm hoping always that this will inspire other people to take on board, or even just having them as a reminder for themselves to keep on empowering themselves with the simplicity of those messages that they carry so much power within themselves. So thank you, Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you, Daniel, for giving me this time to share with you, for this moment that we have shared together in here, and I really enjoyed it.
And thank you for your presence, your time, and your wisdom. I really appreciate to have you on board and to share a piece of your true self with us today, so that hopefully will inspire others to take action for their life and contribute in their own way to what they can give to their own family and community. So thank you everyone who is listening. I hope you will carry with you all these insight that we've been sharing up to now, and I'm looking forward to share with you again soon. Bye.
Grazie per averci fatto compagnia. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. If you wish to stay updated and connected, visit us on our social media channels and our website www.artyoga.co. Ci sentiamo presto. Ciao! See you!